So now the planet Uranus and Mars are coming together. Mars is moving towards Uranus, and Mars is our action. Uranus is sudden change. It's also liberation. It's freedom. It's awakening. It's with Mars coming against that planet Uranus and sneaking up on it. That is an acceleration of the energy. Normally, when we see Mars and Uranus come together in history, if we go back as astrologers can, you can look back at that and look at dates of when Mars and Uranus came together. And almost every time Mars and Uranus comes together, something happens that can be very altering to a society. It can be violent. It can be a life-changing moment. The assassination of McKinley was on a Mars-Uranus transit. Other things that have happened have been on Mars-Uranus transits that were extremely changing of a society or of a life or whatever. That's the macrocosm. And so right now we have very, very volatile energy, and this energy is accelerated and really made more potent. So for the next week or so, I'm going to say from July 10th on, all right, it exacts on the 15th, 16th, depending on where you live. But this is an energy that's also going to set the tone for the year, for the rest of the year. It is not lost on me that this particular transit of Mars conjuncting Uranus is happening right around the time in this country, in the United States, when the Republican convention is meeting. And I have a couple of videos on my YouTube channel, Zenkuda, where I analyze both Trump's chart and also Joe Biden's chart in two separate videos. And in Donald Trump's chart, the Uranus-Mars conjunction is happening right on his midheaven, or MC. It's also conjuncting personal planets of his. And that for him is a real signature of the way the world sees him and his status in the world going to be changing in a very big way. Now, that could be positive, it could be negative. But based on what we're seeing in the world and the amount of volatility and dynamic change, I don't think that's a signature that means it's going to stay the same. I've said all along, and a lot of people, don't agree with me, but it's almost like just an intuitive feeling I have. I don't think either Biden or Trump are going to be our next president. I just don't. I think there's going to be quite a shakeup, and it's already happening now. Things are changing that we never thought would be changing. So those critical days right around that Republican convention, around that 15th to 17th, building up now to that time, is really going to be very interesting to watch and see what happens. In your own personal lives, I would absolutely give the advice to kind of lay low a little bit. I wouldn't put myself in the line of fire. If you know anyone who is a volatile person, or someone who's just, extremely unhappy or has an anger issue, or is someone that flies off the handle a lot, because this is an energy where people can lose their stuff. So we're building up to this energy come July 10th, because the sun in Cancer starts to trine Saturn in Pisces. Saturn in Pisces is around the 19th, 20th degree of Pisces. We've talked quite a lot about Saturn's energy in Pisces. You can go back on other shows if you want and listen to them. On the 11th, we've got Venus in Cancer now. And now we have a dynamic that's lining up for 2025 to be an unbelievably changeable year. So the energy builds this week. And then definitely by the 12th, the energy's really changed, because Taurus is fixed earth. Leo is fixed fire. This is like, we're digging our heels in. We want what we want. We're not going anywhere. And that begins the energy of the Mars-Uranus conjunction. And it exacts July 15th. But by the time, I think July 12th is Friday, July 15th is next Monday. It'll be interesting to hear all your stories. The energy builds and builds and builds. It's like people keep putting logs on the fire and logs on the fire and logs on the fire. But because it's fixed fire and fixed earth, it's like a grinding. It's like, you're going to really feel the tension in the air. Very powerful. It's transformation. It's what happens when you keep putting logs on the fire. You get a bonfire, right? And you burn something down. Or you can really cook your food and heat your house, and it can be really, really constructive, right? So it's either destruction, construction. And that's the power of transformation. And that's where we have the choice. Whenever we're faced with something that's a really big choice or a tragedy, we have the ability either to find the constructive link in it or to let it burn down the house, right? And you're going to see this play out in the collective. turning something that can be strongly painful into valor and into a valiant thing. It's really an amazing energy. But in history, when we look at the fixed star Algol and wherever it comes into the chart, oftentimes it does signify a loss of power of some kind. And when we go back into the history of this transit of Mars-Uranus and then add Algol in, many times when we've had a transit or a sky like this, people have come into loss of power and leaderships have been changed. Coups have happened. Governments get thrown. So it's going to be very interesting to watch. And a lot of times, leaders will lose power in an energy like this and others gain power. So there's, negative and positive in everything, that rebirth, that transformation, the conflict turned to power. Conflict turned to power. Rising again despite tragedy. We all have great power and find new purpose when we have to reinvent ourselves. Anyone who's gone through a painful breakup or a divorce or lost someone dear to them knows there's a reinvention process that happens. And that is so unbelievably beautiful. Painful as hell, but so beautiful. Because at the end of all of this rise of power and really, psychic, intuitive energy that comes forward in these times for us, it brings us to a place where we really are in our own authority and have our own agency. And so that's what this is all about. And this is the energy that we're really, really coming into now in 2024, 2025, and into 2026. So the energy really builds. This is tension. You're going to feel it. When this finally exacts, it's not like it happens where, boom, the world ends. This is an energy that stays with us a while. It's a gradual thing. It's like a seeding moment. Uranus and Mars is a seeding moment of activity. It's a release of tension, but we don't know what to do with it. We just know something's going to happen. We don't know what. That's what it feels like. When Mars, Uranus come together, we can feel it. It's like, when you feel a rumble, something's going to happen, but you're not really sure what it is. That's this energy. And because it's Mars and Uranus, Mars is very physical. So this can also play out in the world with earthquakes, volcanoes, things like that. So all this energy just keeps building and building and building. All these things, all these conversations, these crosstalk in the zodiac is like a flow of energy. It's like an open circuit. So it's pretty cool stuff. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I'm not going to say all of it's going to be pleasant. It's going to be shocks. It could be seismic activity. This is opposing the sun of Joe Biden, which is health and physical vitality, which means that when that Mars-Uranus, just like it's on Donald Trump's midheaven, redoing, reinventing, a sudden shift of status for him somehow, it's opposing Joe Biden's sun, which is our vitality, our life force. So it's going to, weaken that. Something's going to happen with that. So basically, in a nutshell, what I can tell you is something's going to happen. Don't know what it is, but we've got some big major changes coming our way.